Thanks, Matt. Oh, happy
Let's
days.
fucking go.
Oh, happy days. What a week.
First we run every crypto bank, then we run every quote unquote real bank. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. It's
Mandibles.
it's funny seeing the mainstream news headlines about it. Everybody's like, "Oh no. It's terrible. Binance is having everybody pull their funds or run on Binance." And little do they know that's actually a good thing. People are taking control of their keys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Binance part is a little bit overblown. Uh, they have massive reserves, and you can see all their Bitcoin that they have, and so not that much Bitcoin has actually been withdrawn. I haven't looked at like their shitcoin balances, um, but not as much as you'd expect from social media. From social media, you'd expect that like 80% of their Bitcoin balance has been withdrawn, but it's really like 10% or something like that. Um, but yeah, good to see people taking self custody. I think it's hard to prove, but pretty sure that we're at self custody all time high in the history of Bitcoin. And since if you don't hold your own keys, you don't actually hold Bitcoin, you hold IOUs. I think we can safely say that Bitcoin ownership is at an all time high in the history of the world.
I would agree, which is a beautiful thing to see. Again, I don't think Binance is going to go insolvent. So I think they're, even though
They might.
they could. I think the probability is lower than FTX's probability of going insolvent in the beginning of November. But
100%. I mean,
yeah,
FTX was a absolute bucket shop. But the thing is well, first of all, any honest exchange should be completely fine with people withdrawing. If anything, it'll prove legitimacy, it'll prove reliability, and then users will go back to the ones that they have the best reputation, right? So, if anything, it should be a positive for an honest exchange. Like, no honest exchange operator should be upset or discouraging people from withdrawing Bitcoin. There is a bit of nuance there because of on the shitcoin side, there's all these different staking services and stuff like that where these exchanges make revenue if you have custody on the exchange, and they obviously want to keep making that revenue. And you can kind of see a similar dynamic on these yield services where they need you to essentially loan them Bitcoin so they can go loan it out to degenerative traders and make money off that front. But it's interesting how much eyes are on Binance, while Barry still owes Gemini users $900 million and withdrawals are still frozen. Like, I think we should be resetting this framing here. Gemini, the exchange that was in New York City, had crypto needs rules and had all this stuff about how they were the most legitimate exchange in the world. Um, their earned product users still cannot get their funds out. And Barry Silbert, who's like supposed to be the poster child of regulated Bitcoin financial products, owes them $900 million for withdrawals to open again.
not ideal for Gemini holders or Gemini users looking to get yield. Don't get yield. You are the yield, as you're finding out now. We have a tweet here that is calculating the withdrawals from Binance yesterday and the day before. Largest 2-day outflow since the exchange started, providing proof of reserves on November 10th, and it was more than $5 billion of user withdrawals. And this is probably not only, it's not only Bitcoin, it's all the shit coins and stable coins as well, but we even want our shitcoiner friends to self-custody if you're going to be speculating.
Yeah, not your keys, not your shitcoins, freaks.
Yes. And this gets into another trend. I'm looking for the tweet now. I can't find it, but hopefully this starts a trend in the space. Ray Youssef from Paxful, he started to send messages. So this is like an example of UX that exchanges could enable to encourage individuals that are using their services to take self-custody. And Paxful is going to start recommending that their users move their Bitcoin off of that exchange.
Yeah, I mean, if you are running a custodial Bitcoin product, the responsible move is to educate your users as much as possible on the risks of holding funds in a custodial relationship, that they can be frozen or stolen at will, and encourage users not to keep Bitcoin on your platform. Did you see? I mean, I think Swan has usually done a pretty good job with it. Obviously, the next step above that is something like BullBitcoin, where you literally cannot use the product unless you set up your own self custody wallet. But did you see Mahler's crunch the numbers, and 90% of Bitcoin purchased on Strike has been withdrawn?
Yep, I did see that.
That's fantastic.
It's
That's
beautiful
exactly
to
what
see.
you want to see.
There's something else I wanted to mention, but I forget it. We have the tweet.
Jevy makes a good point that the best way to secure your shitcoins is to convert them to Bitcoin and move those Bitcoin into self-custody.
This is true.
And what I really like about that message that Jevy just posted is he had the correct plural for shitcoins, which is with an S. And then he had the correct plural for Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin.
No, well, if you're trading shitcoins, they're down precipitously against Bitcoin. So it's unlikely that you're going to have more than one Bitcoin and be able to convert them into Bitcoins.
The easiest way to have more than one Bitcoin worth of shitcoins is to have put 20 Bitcoin worth into the shitcoins in the first place.
Here's a message from Ray at Paxful. Hi, CEO of Paxful and responsible for the Bitcoin of over 11 million people. I take great pride in protecting our community's funds, and unlike others in our industry, I've never touched our customers' money. My sole responsibility is to help and serve you. That's why today I'm messaging all of our users to move your Bitcoin to self-custody. You should not keep your savings on Paxful or any exchange, and only keep what you trade here. There's more in that message, but that's the important thing. So more of this.
The thing is, if you're a responsible operator and you're not doing bullshit with your user funds, you're not rehypothecating, you're not lending it out, which is rehypothecating, you're not commingling it and using it as your slush fund to buy yourself fancy apartments or cars or whatnot, you don't want the liability. You'd prefer that people don't custody on your exchange. Like no one should want to hold someone else's Bitcoin. If you're operating an ethical business.
Right. That's actually good you brought that up, because the episode I recorded with Matthew Mazinksius last week, our most recent quarterly update for the global monetary base and where Bitcoin fits into that pecking order, we went over the FTX debacle. And if you guys haven't listened to any of the episodes with Matthew, he really gets the different definitions of different monetary media, whether it's credit, cash, fiduciary media, whatever. And we go deep into what owning Bitcoin on an exchange actually is. You are an unsecured creditor, and you owning that Bitcoin on an exchange is technically a liability for the exchange. And so this is why we've had people like Jesse Powell come out and say, hey, I don't want you holding your Bitcoin on my exchange either. It's a liability, literally a liability for me that I have to worry about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, I mean, just on the Binance note, props where props are due on CZ's side is they do have their own self-custody wallet called Trust Wallet. Now, it's a horrible wallet that nobody should use. But
props where props are due.
Yeah. But I feel like he should still get some props for it, because he is funding it. He puts it out there. He promotes it, tells people to use Trust Wallet because it's self-custody. I don't think it's open source. It uses reused Bitcoin addresses. Like, it doesn't cycle to a new Bitcoin address every time. But according to Sergey of BitRefill, it's one of the most popular wallets that people use to spend at BitRefill. So, so he deserves at least some props for that. And then one other thing that's getting intermixed here in all this Binance stuff is, as far as I'm concerned, the thing I really care about as a Bitcoiner that operates in the space, that we have a decent sized audience somehow that we've accrued, is essentially solvency of these exchanges and them operating ethically to their customers. The only real proof of reserves is self-custody. Everyone should withdraw your Bitcoin. You should hold your Bitcoin yourself. If you're not holding your Bitcoin yourself, it's very easy to do. There's a deep rabbit hole, but it's way easier than people make it out to seem. If you're not holding your Bitcoin yourself, you're holding IOUs. But all that said, there's a mix in here of like the DOJ is thinking about hitting Binance with like money laundering charges and like regulatory charges and stuff. Like that's all mostly bullshit. Like that is like the long arm of like the financial KYC regime in America that has always had a target on CZ. That is completely different than running a fraudulent business that is
misappropriating user funds and
user funds. Yeah.
It's there is a difference. With that being said, I don't know, did you see CZ was coming out either yesterday or earlier today saying that 99% of people who take their Bitcoin off exchange are going to lose it?
Yeah, I don't like that.
No.
I don't like that. He said, the Celsius Ponzi guy, who, by the way, is still not arrested, he said the same thing right before. Well, Machinsky said the same thing right before everything blew up. Once again, I'm not saying I'm not here to defend CZ. He is running a shitcoin casino. He does have his own shitcoin that he pretends is decentralized. He has his own shit chain, Binance Smart Chain, which is not smart or decentralized or censorship resistant.
Which has been proven in the past. I believe he's overtly censored some apps.
Yeah, he has a lot of faults, but it's a very low bar to be significantly above SBF.
Agreed.
And also, Barry Silbert can go fuck himself still because he still owes users $900 million. And right now, CZ does not owe users money.
Not yet. Probability lower than FTX, though. Oh, I was going to say something else, too. Well, I think about what I was just going to say. I remembered what I was going to say earlier, which was you mentioned BullBitcoin. And that stoked the thought. I saw a tweet from Satoshi's Dragon earlier today, and it seems like there's some more fuckery at the Canadian banks, particularly RBC. One of the BullBitcoin customers was on the phone with RBC for 6 hours to figure out why they couldn't send cash to BullBitcoin. So the bank said everyone is blocking payments to BullBitcoin in Canada. Speculation right now, one anecdotal data point, but if you're a Canadian freak using BullBitcoin, hopefully this is just a one-off case. But as we've seen earlier this year, Canada and particularly the Canadian banks do like to prevent people from accessing funds.
Yeah, all banks do. It's literally not your money. It's an IOU in the bank. It's an IOU for a shitcoin, which is the Canadian dollar, or in America, the US dollar. But an IOU regardless. I've been very consistent since we started Rabbit Hole Recap, almost 5 years ago, that I expect most governments to try to ban Bitcoin. And when I say ban Bitcoin, I mean actual Bitcoin usage, like private Bitcoin usage, holding Bitcoin yourself, using Bitcoin yourself, not, trading IOU tokens on some regulated exchange somewhere. And where are we going to see the first signs of that? We're going to see the first signs of that cutting off financial access, cutting off banking access to services that enable easy self-custody. And then you kind of push people to services like Fidelity or something that don't allow withdrawals, that are completely and utterly captured, not just like partially captured with KYC.
Yes, expect it. We have it on the list. Obviously, we're going to talk about Senator Warren's bill, but
to this day, Marty, do you feel the same thing as me?
Oh yeah,
that if you sold your Bitcoin, I mean, not that we have any, but if we sold the Bitcoin we don't have, that we would not be able to get back in. I feel like at any moment, it always feels to me that if you don't actually have custody of Bitcoin, there's no promise that tomorrow you'll be able to get it.
You have to work for it on the black market.
The real market.
The real market.
We already lost that narrative.
Square quotes, a black market.
Black Market's the original unhosted wallet.
Yes, it's the original raw milk.
Yes.
I recorded.
It's just milk.
It's just milk. I recorded an episode with Shore's Provost yesterday that will be released tomorrow on the TFTC feed, but that was a big chunk of the conversation was how's Bitcoin going to be attacked, and we both agreed it's going to be these regulatory attacks where they just simply prevent you from getting on and off of Bitcoin in a non-custodial fashion. Back to Binance, though. That's why we started the episode with this. Probably not great for Binance, but it's great to see that people are beginning to be aware. Maybe you shouldn't hold your Bitcoin on exchanges. You shouldn't have single points of failure in these trusted third parties pulling their Bitcoin off. And we had a conversation earlier this week that if, again, probability, probably lower, most definitely lower than FTX failing, but let's just play through the thought experiment of Binance getting into some trouble and having to go under. That would actually be massive for emerging markets where they dominate
everybody.
Yeah, for everybody, but particularly emerging markets where Binance seems to have a significant foothold and control over how people interact with Bitcoin in Africa.
Binance is the single biggest threat and has been to self-sovereign Bitcoin usage in emerging markets like Africa and Latin America. I mean, look, like I said, when Sergey came on Dispatch, tied for number 2, it was Bitcoin was the most used payment method at like 30-something%. And then tied for number 2 at 17% was Binance Pay, which is just their closed payment API system. Doesn't even fucking use a blockchain. They are absolute juggernauts. And when they're funneling money into education, quote unquote education and promotions and whatnot in Africa, they're not telling people that they should go use self-sovereign Bitcoin tools. They're telling them to use Binance Smart Chain with BNB and all that bullshit.
Yes.
But I would also say if Binance goes down, well, first of all, DCG, even if Binance doesn't go down, isn't out of the woods yet.
You're not going to let people forget about DCG today.
If Binance goes down, DCG, if you think about all the counterparties DCG had, right? It was like Alameda done, 3 Arrows Capital done. They're holding their own GBTC that's at a massive discount. Like DCG owes Genesis $1.7 billion themselves. Whatever counterparties they have left, all get wrecked on Binance as well. So it gets really, really, really bloody out there in the short term. But long term, I think it's good for Bitcoin as freedom money. It's good for Bitcoin self-sovereign usage. It's good for Bitcoin ownership distribution from whales to smaller holders that are more ideologically aligned with the freedom movement. I think it would be long-term bullish in that situation.
Yeah, agreed. For self-sovereign Bitcoin usage. Wrap up the Binance thread here. We have Kevin O'Leary going. We'll get on that during the Senator Warren part of the show because it ties into that. Let's go to the Clark's dashboard and we'll get into the list. I got so much I want to say. The current price of Bitcoin is $17,000.
We have plenty of time, Marty.
$420. One cuck buck's going to get you 5,741 sats. Currently sitting at a 335.1 billion cuck buck market cap. We are at block height 767,560. We had a great palindrome block. Shout out to Jevy. Jevy's not only our all-pro RHR live chat fact checker, but he's also my all-pro. Hey, there's a palindrome block coming in the next couple hours. Be on the lookout.
Well, you have a whole group of ride or dies now. That's like, I just imagine you get like 30 different DMs as soon as a palindrome block. You're like the palindrome block mafia over there.
I'm not mad about the palindrome block mafia. I'm happy that others are joining in the beautiful, non-important beauty of aesthetically pleasing palindrome blocks. And the last one was 766667. It was just beautiful, like 7 with 6s sandwiched in between it. The next palindrome block is 767767.
When is Clark going to put a palindrome watcher on the
Jevy, do you care?
sheet?
Jevy, do you care? Jevy. So we are 200. We are 207 blocks away from the next palindrome block. Just be aware, freaks.
Someone should set up a bot that like 5 blocks before the next palindrome block tags Marty on Twitter and tells him.
Jevy cares. You let us know. We had a difficulty adjustment right before last week's episode. We're currently 536 blocks away from the next difficulty adjustment, which is estimated to be on December 19th. So in 4 days, that is estimated to be a 5.6% upward adjustment. Blocks have been coming in at 9 minutes and 28 seconds on average. And I believe this is a lower adjustment than, it was estimated to be 9.65% upward adjustment about a week ago. So it seems like some hash rate has fallen off the network since last week, or we just have better data. There are currently 2,807 transactions in Clark's mempool. 1 sat per byte fees. They're going to get through relatively quickly, not next block, but if you're willing to wait, you can send those low fees. Samurai unspent capacity still hovering over 6,000 Bitcoins at 6,084.83. In unspent capacity, the unspent value is 106.0 million cuck bucks. Had a bit of a price pump this week too. Hovering in the mid-17s.
What do you think about Jevy's idea? Can we have RHR live during block 777777?
That would be beautiful. I've already been thinking about palindrome block 7s across the board.
That's more than a palindrome block. That's like a super block or something.
Yeah, that's a lucky block. 7s across the board. And we are, what?
When is that?
It's in less than 10,000 blocks. It's 9,439 blocks.
So it's like 2 years?
9,000 blocks? No. It's like...
Oh, 9,000 blocks. I thought you said 90,000.
No, 9,000.
Oh, right.
439.
Fair enough. RHR math. Jevy, tell us how. Give us a month's a day's countdown. How many days do we have?
So that's give or take
divided by 144.
Give or take 7 difficulty adjustments.
2 to 3
weeks.
months.
Yeah, we'll try to make it happen. 8 to 9 weeks. Lucas is estimating. Jevy saying 2 to 3 months.
Luke is asking us if we're turning into boomer astrologists worshipping number coincidences now. Actually, this is not a coincidence. This is it's built into the code of Bitcoin. We know it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't worship it. I just think it's aesthetically pleasing. It's a little nerd aesthetics there.
Astrology for Bitcoiners. No, astrology would be if I told you that you're going to find the love of your life on block 777777, which you will because it is known.
We just spoke it into existence. Manifest, freaks. If you're out there looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend, it hasn't happened yet. In 62 and a half days, according to Pedro, we're going to hit block 777,777, and you're going to find your significant other. Boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever your fancy is. Jevy finds block height so aesthetically pleasing that is now the only data point displayed on my block clock. You're missing out. There's a lot of good data. What do we have up there now? 535 blocks till next difficulty retarget. All right, that's it for the dashboard. Musings about good aesthetics on the block height. Matt's dogs are big palindrome blocks fans too. Are you drinking a 4 Loco? Or is that a 312? What is that? Oh, hard seltzer.
It's a local New Hampshire hard seltzer. 603 is their area code.
603. it was a Goose Island. They have the 312? Yeah, the Chicago area code. First on the list.
You know what the Nashville area code is, right?
No. 415?
6.15.
615. It's close. 415 is like San Francisco, I think.
My dogs only bark when we're live on RHR.
They know. They know we're talking that good stuff. They're trying to contribute. I'm trying to think of what they would be saying. Maybe they know we're about to talk about SBF getting arrested in the Bahamas, and they're saying, scammer. I mean, obviously, we started with Binance, but this has been the big news of the week in the mainstream. Sam Bankman-Fried, after a month-long media tour, he was probably incriminating himself, but maybe he was trying to get in the good graces of the authorities. He was taken in by the Bahamian authorities. I don't know if it was by order of the New York Department of Financial Services. Yeah, he's arrested.
I mean, what do you mean by good graces? Like, I think they came into his condo and fucking arrested the guy.
No, I was saying the media tour was him trying to get in the good graces.
Yeah, that was just
incriminating.
Classic
himself.
Desperation.
Yes, and so we have a picture of his purple.
So according to the Bahamian police, the Southern District of New York, which does all they shoot way above their weight. They just don't do just the Southern District of New York. Filed charges. They were notified of the charges, so they arrested him based on those charges.
Yes, that's what
then
it was.
I think they filed separate charges against him as well. And then they said if there's an extradition request, which hadn't been at that point, they're like, we expect there to be an extradition request, and we'll extradite him to the U.S. as soon as that happens.
Yes, and so we have a picture up of his perp walk, and it's poetic. I mean, you have him all frazzled, heading into the police car in cuffs. His collar's all disgruntled. Then you have the juxtaposition of him, his flesh, and then a shadow in the background, which just looks extremely creepy, and it looks like it personifies the fraud that he thrust on the world.
Looks like a very happy policeman in the back.
We got him, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. It was astonishing that it took this long to get him in cuffs, and
it was pretty quick.
A month. They got Bernie Madoff in 6 hours.
Yeah. Was it? I mean, Bernie was in New York, and it was his kids ratted him out on that one.
Yeah. I believe it was 12 years to the day, or 14 years to the day.
Bernie was also the chairman of the NASDAQ. Fucking crazy.
NASDAQ or NYSE?
Died in jail.
I thought it was not New York Stock Exchange.
NASDAQ. Verify freaks, but I'm pretty sure it was NASDAQ.
Yeah. So he's in jail, purportedly waiting extradition to the U.S. He tried to ask for bail. Bail was denied. He said he needed bail because of his vegan diet and his addiction to amphetamines.
Is that what he said?
He said, yeah, I can't go to jail because I'm a vegan. I'm prescribed Adderall. That was...
I mean, the jails there are... Did you see people posting pictures of the prisons?
No.
This bad prison over there.
It's not as good as the penthouse?
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah. We don't have to belabor the FTX saga too much. Obviously, we've been talking about it quite a bit over the last month, but it seems that Ryan Salami, who was one of the co-founders, or he was head of digital assets at FTX at one point earlier this year before leaving. It seems that...
Who's Alameda? Yeah.
Alameda or whatever.
Yes, they were all Alameda. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all one and the same. Continue.
Apparently, he ratted them out. But there's also speculation that he was spoof trading with insider knowledge and cashed out $1 billion before officially leaving the company.
He's the one that they had
he was doing the gumdrop car race over in Europe.
Yeah, you saw that video of him or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's got to be a fucking scammer.
Yeah. Again, apparently
he's like not only he's like the worst type of scammer, right? Because like he was in on the whole scam, but then also like he turns coats on his friends that were in on the scam like right away. Like it just like read all over.
Hey,
when I saw that video.
I traded using inside information to make $1 billion, cashed out, left the company. I will rat these guys out if give me amnesty.
Like if you're gonna scam people, at least don't rat out your fellow scammers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Is that where we stay? Is that? I think that's my policy.
I imagine how
don't scam people, but if you do, don't also scam your fellow scammers.
Yeah, if you're gonna be a scammer, you can't be a snitch and a scammer.
Yeah, that's the bottom of the bottom.
Bottom of the bottom, scum. So, obviously, I'm sure we'll hear more about this saga moving forward. It was peculiar that they decided to take him in and press charges the day before he was set to testify before Congress. But whatever, here we are.
What do you get out of that? Do you think that's like a conspiracy?
I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
I mean, these testimony things are like commercials for senators. Like they're not.
Yeah,
I don't know. They're not
somebody.
Like real. What?
Somebody tweeted out. It's like a comedian working on a bit. They like write down their 5 minutes, get it in, and
yeah,
it's very self-serving. It's not really.
It's like it's like PR bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't think. Look, maybe that was the strategy. Maybe the strategy was, throw me in a horrible prison and arrest me and prepare me for extradition instead of going on a Zoom call for a Senate testimony. But it just doesn't add up to me.
No,
it's just like people are never happy. It's like, why isn't he arrested? That's ridiculous. He's not arrested yet. And then he gets arrested. Like, why didn't they wait a day to arrest him? Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, I don't think we should read too much into it. It's coincidence. I mean, I think we all believed he should have been apprehended. I think earlier than this week. Can't get mad when they apprehend him. And it just so happens to fall on the day before a Senate hearing.
And also, we don't even know if he was going to fucking join the Senate hearing. He was like bailing out. There was like a separate congressional hearing too, because like the House wanted their own and the Senate wanted one. He was like, I'm only going to do one. I'm not going to do the other. He might not even signed into the fucking Zoom at the time.
Yeah.
Like just get it fucking over with. Have him, testify in court. Yeah. He's already incriminated himself. It's all the proof is already there. We have all the proof.
Yeah. He went on a lot of spaces with a lot of idiots and. I mean, maybe that's what he's going.
I'm glad that clown show's over.
Same.
It was like scammers hosting him, getting engagement off of him talking about his scam. And they weren't even asking him hard-hitting questions.
No, well, they're scammers. They're idiots. They don't even know the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
I could see this being an Ocean's 12 situation, though. Remember the end of Ocean's 12?
No, you want to hit us with a spoiler?
They're all arrested.
You can't spoil a movie that's 8 years ago.
This is more than 8 years ago. It's over a decade ago. They're all in a jail cell. Ocean's 12 are in a jail cell in Italy. They've been arrested for stealing shit. And then the FBI comes in to, they tell the Italian authorities, hey, we're extraditing these guys to the U.S. They're all U.S. citizens. They rob some banks in Vegas. We get precedent here. They walk out. The lead FBI agent is Matt Damon's mom, and she's just sneaking him out of prison, essentially.
Yeah.
I
definitely watched that movie. Did you watch the remake?
No, I did not.
What'd they call that one? I don't even know.
I forget.
Movies.
Ocean's 8? I don't know. Logan's saying Ocean's 8. I did not watch it.
Ocean's 8 after Ocean 12?
Yeah.
That's confusing.
Very confusing. I will say, the Ocean trilogy.
You think SBF is going to survive Bahamian in prison, quote unquote?
Yeah, I think
Do you think he gets McAfee'd?
No. I don't know.
Is McAfee alive?
Who knows?
That would be greatest hits to end 2022 as McAfee comes out of hiding. Just one last hurrah
to kill
15
us.
days left in the year.
He comes out. He starts live streaming from SBF's jail cell. He scammed everybody.
I don't believe I think if I was going to bet on it, I would bet that McAfee's still alive.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know one way or the other.
It's like a corrupt Spanish jail. I mean, first of all, I don't think there's any non-corrupt prisons, period, but you could probably pay off people there for like $50K.
Yeah. Now we're falling down like to who's is like Murcia Popescu. Did he really drown in Costa Rica?
Definitely not dead. That one I know for sure. I mean, like, I don't have insider information on it. That's definitely a fake. It was a boating accident.
Is Jeffrey Epstein
Super
dead?
easy boating accident.
Would not be surprised if he's alive.
Probably agree on that one too. Yeah, never saw a body, right?
Well, you have that one shot of the gurney, and like you can see like part of his ear. That's about it.
It does not count.
No,
that does not. But Murcia is the most likely alive out of all of them by far.
Again, I've told the story before.
Like that's way too. That's way too.
That beach he died on in Costa Rica, Playa Hermosa. I've surfed there many times, and
he never died.
Well, I've never died because I had a surfboard. It's like well known. It's like a heavy. It's like a heavy shore break. People don't like swim there leisurely. So he was either extremely dumb or
he could have been drunk.
Could have been.
Usually, like most of the time, people die in situations that you don't expect them to die in. It involves heavy intoxication of some sort.
Yeah.
That's usually the variable that's not accounted for. But I still think it was a fake death. It's just, it's too perfect.
It's close to 1 million Bitcoin.
It's as believable as me tweeting out, "Oh, I went fishing the other day and I, brought my hardware wallet on the boat and now I lost it." It's almost as believable as that.
I mean, again, he had close to 1 million Bitcoin, apparently, allegedly. At that level, maybe it is smart to fake your death.
I just really hope that SBF arrives in America, testifies in U.S. court. They wrap this all up. They give him 150 years in jail, like they gave to Madoff, and we can just put this behind us, and we don't have to fucking talk about whether or not he actually killed himself or not for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
if I'm gonna wish anything on block 7777777, it's that. This will just be a normal court proceeding, and we just don't have to discuss it.
Yeah, we get like 2020 interview updates of SBF in 20 years from his jail cell. He's got his shaved head. He's all jacked. He's got a boyfriend, and it's like, I made a mistake. Prison life's not that bad though. I'm off the amphetamines. Next on the list, the EU to make crypto companies report tax details to authorities. New OECD inspired tax.
I don't like their headline.
Take a step further.
It's a bad headline.
Than MICA. All right, what headline would you put?
I want the headline I put in the list. They are gonna their plan is to force every Bitcoin company that has business with Europeans to report user holdings, exactly how much Bitcoin they have, their withdrawal addresses, and their transaction history. Full on assault on user privacy and sovereignty. And this is exactly, we were talking about what attacks on Bitcoin will look like. Well, cutting off on-ramps, but also the on-ramps that you allow to continue, you have complete view into everything that's happening there and to users. And then you couple that with essentially restrictions, or at least by law restrictions, on what you can do with the Bitcoin or shitcoins after you withdraw, including, using privacy tools. And then you kind of take all that information, you see who's lying to you, and you make an example of a few people, and then the rest will comply because most people just comply when a little bit of fear is added.
Yes. Shores and I talked about this yesterday too. He's optimistic that the European equivalent of the Supreme Court will step in here and say this is too much of an invasion of privacy. I said,
Did you ask him about Alexei?
We mentioned Alexei.
Pertsev, the Tornado Cash dev that's in prison in Shores' country, in the Netherlands.
That did come up, but in the context of the Senator Warren bill and trying to force.
I love Shores. He's an extremely talented individual.
Shores.
Yeah, but that's what I said. Shores.
You're saying Shores.
No, he like, I think it's Shores, but he says Shores for Americans to pronounce. It's SJORS.
Shores.
Whatever. Okay. Great dude.
Should I pull him in here?
Grateful to have him working on
He's in
Bitcoin.
the Commons right now. Should I pull him in here?
Extremely smart. He was just in Nashville visiting Bitcoin Park. Go to bitcoinpark.co if you want a list of coming events at Bitcoin Park. He was just at Bitcoin Park in Nashville. Once again, love the dude. Lots of respect for him. Grateful he's working on Bitcoin. A little bit naive when it comes to the state actors part.
I think I agree with you there.
You have to, when it comes to corrupt politicians, you have to assume the absolute worst. Because at the end of the day, freedom is a threat to them. So they will do whatever is possible to control and prevent freedom tech from spreading.
Yes, and this is, not to belabor is becoming the word on my end of this show, the Shores interview, but we agree that the regulatory attack, preventing users from moving Bitcoin off exchange, and then on top of that, surveilling them, is potentially the biggest attack vector on Bitcoin, because not only does it encourage overt censorship, but self-censorship. On top of that, we got into like, how do you fix this? And we really do need, we've been trying for years on this show to make sure people care and recognize the fact that KYC AML is the illicit activity. It puts more individual in harm's way than it does to actually prevent any money laundering. As we've said ad nauseum over the last 4.5 years, criminals are going to criminal. They're going to break the law no matter what. They don't care about the laws. You can
Criminals don't follow laws.
Yeah. It's just the way it works. But there's some way, like we need, KYC is the illicit activity. KYC AML is the illicit activity is a good meme, but we need to really, for the layman out there, the common Joe, the average Joe, the common man who doesn't get this, like we need to somehow get this idea embedded into the minds of everybody else who isn't hyper focused on this like we are. Like you are giving up your personal information.
People will realize it, Marty. People will realize how risky it is once more people get burned. Like
that's exactly what Shore said. It's like Odell says, you got to burn your hand on the stove.
Yeah, everyone's gonna get burned.
But everybody has.
That's
like
the sad part.
The Equifax hack was 200 million Americans.
Yeah. No, but it's still early. It's early. It's not just Bitcoin, right? It's this greater digital surveillance society we live in. It's very new. We've never had so much of our lives recorded and stored insecurely forever as we do today. And that increases every day, right? So it's not just on the Bitcoin or the quote unquote crypto side. Like the FTX creditors, like they're all going to get exposed in the bankruptcy process. That's going to be a big lesson to people. But it's not just on that side, right? When we see like the Ring cameras start to get, released and hacked and shared footage of people's intimate conversations they're having in their bedroom on their Alexa or their kitchen on their Alexa, black market clones that are made from people's DNA because they're just submitting it to these DNA services without thinking about it. As these things start to develop,
black market clones. Damn, I haven't heard that one yet.
We'll have
I haven't heard black market clones yet. It scares the shit out of me.
It's provocative, Marty. So 95% of people in these situations where you have mass stove touching incidents where people get burned, just, they insulate it, they make excuses, they ignore the situation, right? But we get people, every time it happens, we get people that start to realize, and then they become the annoying friend or family member that won't shut up about, using Signal and improving your privacy and doing all these different things. And those dominoes just keep falling, right? So my optimism comes from a realization that it's going to get worse, and there's just going to be burn after burn after burn. But every time that happens, we will get new people that realize the need, and then we just need tools and education available for them so they can actually act on that need rather than just being disenfranchised and being like, oh shit, we're all fucked, and there's no path for me.
Yeah. Equip with education, point people to the right tools. That's the beauty of Bitcoin and the open source software that allows you to interact with Bitcoin. It's out there. And while you can take advantage of it, you should. I'm just trying to think of like all the on-ramps get shut off. Then we
I hope it happens.
Then we focus on the circular economy.
I'm a fan of chaos. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's better than people like building on false premise, right? Yeah. On a shaky foundation that they think is not shaky.
Great. Accelerate.
It's like worst case scenario.
Accelerate. Rip it off. I don't want my kids to have to grow up and we have to rebuild. I'd rather rebuild sooner than later.
I think people also don't realize that like this loss of trust in the quote unquote crypto ecosystem is simply a teaser for the rest of society. Like our institutions at scale are failing us. People are losing trust in our institutions because they should. If anything, they've been slow to realize this lack of trust and this loss of trust. And in that situation, there are not many things that allow you to interact with society in a trust minimized way. And Bitcoin, particularly Bitcoin held in self-custody, but also the greater open source movement is one of those special places in our society where you can actually interact with others without trust, or at least in a trust minimized way. So, a lot of times like people don't actually verify the code. They don't know this, they don't know that, but trust is minimized. And as a result, those tools, whether that's Bitcoin or whether that's message encryption, or whether that's, local video storage, or I don't know, local DNA processing. I don't know how, like zero knowledge DNA process, whatever. That's a rabbit hole. But my point is those tools that mitigate trust will have essentially like a renaissance type of situation, right? Like people are going to flock to those things. And like, we have not seen anything yet. Like it is going to get fucking bad out there. I mean, people think FTX was a fraud. It was a fraud, but like you should look at the reserve ratios of all the major banks, and then start to think what happens if the money printer that backs them all up, there's trust lost in that at the same time.
Yeah. And while we're on this tip, it actually reminded me of a clip I saw this morning. Two individuals I'm not big fans of particularly, but it was Andrew Yang on Chris Cuomo's show. But I thought this stat was simply astonishing. Congress has a 22% approval rating, but individual members have a re-election rate of 94%, which is
corruption, man.
Yeah, it's pretty insane when you visualize those numbers. There's less than a quarter of the country approves of what's going on in Congress, and yet these people are getting reelected at a 94% rate. And he's saying because of the way gerrymandering, essentially.
Mandibles.
Drink. What do we have next on the list? The Senate bill. So this made a big splash yesterday. Senator Warren from Massachusetts basically released the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act is the act that she put forward.
Get a Kansas Republican too.
Yeah, what's his name? Like Marland or something like that? Marland?
No idea.
Bipartisan. Senator Warren and Marshall, not Marland. Senator Marshall released this act, and essentially what they want to do is make miners money transmitter businesses, full nodes money transmitter businesses. They want to control the code. They want to force core developers to put some KYC, AML aspects into the Bitcoin protocol layer. Pretty insane stuff.
They want to ban private Bitcoin usage, and they want to ban private Bitcoin development. Essentially, open source developers would need to sign up for a license with the state and KYC themselves to the state, and then they would have to set up KYC surveillance policies for all their software users as well. So, I mean, you want to package an attack on Bitcoin into a single bill. Like, this is the epitome of that. Now, Senator Warren likes doing this a lot. She does really extreme bills that she knows have no chance of passing. But the point remains is that then what happens is they get whittled down. There's some compromise that happens, and then it gets stuffed into some omnibus bill that everyone needs to pass to get the budget for the fucking year. And it still fucking sucks. So first of all, the assumption should be to expect the worst. Always fucking expect the worst when it comes to corrupt politicians. The second thing is, this is one of the reasons why I support the boys at Bitcoin Policy Institute, because they're basically the only, this came out of Coin Center. Coin Center says they're going to fight this. But Bitcoin Policy Institute is the only one that's laser focused on actual self-sovereign Bitcoin usage and protecting that in America. Everyone else is distracted by shitcoins and legalizing, dumping securities on retail. So, support them if you can. That's not necessarily with money. That is also just, with helping them out. They're a small, nimble team. And then third of all, this is an attack on America first and foremost. Bitcoin doesn't die if this kind of bill gets passed. America gets fucked. Americans get fucked. The country as a whole gets screwed from a tax revenue perspective. It pushes industry abroad. And ultimately, it should be treated as a national security issue, because if we are mandating government surveillance on American citizens, law-abiding American citizens, then we are providing these databases that we have proven time and time again that we cannot store securely. The Homeland Security employee database got leaked. It wasn't even them spying on us. It was their database on their own spooks. Foreign governments and malicious individuals will use this information against us. So this is 100% an attack on America, and that's the way I would look at it.
Yeah, it's an egregious, it's egregiously ignoring the First Amendment. The Fourth Amendment, the Third Amendment, arguably. You have the IRS and the government quartering your Bitcoin accounts.
Right. Well, yeah, definitely the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure. The First Amendment, free speech.
Yeah.
And I liked your point that you made on Twitter, where the 10th Amendment comes into play because of states' rights. States will probably fight this type of regulation,
and as they should. I think that's. I've said it many times, but I think that's going to be an increasing trend. Is the states just saying this is insane?
But I will remind freaks that state governments are also very corrupt, and the Constitution's a shitcoin, and we shouldn't rely on it to protect us. It's just another tool we have.
No, you mentioned Homeland Security. Homeland Security spun out of the Patriot Act, which was an egregious affront on privacy of individuals in the United States. So it's been happening for well over 2 decades.
But it had the term Patriot Act in it. Are you not a patriot, Marty? Do we not live in a free country?
This one has anti-money laundering in it. Do you like money laundering?
This is exactly what we said, Marty, by the way. It's so someone commits fraud on a centralized exchange, essentially runs a Ponzi based off an ICO that they created.
That is already regulated.
that bought off politicians from both sides, massive political donations, completely part of the political apparatus in America. And the response is, let's go after self-custody sovereign Bitcoin users rather than, let's push people to actually use self-custody and crack down on these bucket shops that are breaking security violations or whatnot. Like, I don't even know if I'm not a Bitcoiner that says like go after shitcoiners with security violations. Like, I think everyone should be able to just trade whatever the fuck they want. But like, this is so misplaced. This is completely misplaced, and it's malicious. And I mean, they have big money backing them too. That's corrupt and doesn't want to see Bitcoin succeed. So they're just seizing their opportunity. But
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, I mean, this was to be expected.
Elizabeth Warren, a woman who once fancied herself as an advocate of the common man against the big banking industry, is very heavily supported by that banking industry that she claims to not be a fan of.
Yeah, I mean, like some bullshit.
Like you said, the Warren Pocahontas, whatever you want to call her, she's well known for doing these outlandish or proposing these outlandish acts that never get passed. I believe she's presented something like 600 bills and only one has ever actually been passed. So probably another one likely won't get passed, but it is a shot across the bow. They'll come out with this insane bill and then they'll be like, all right, we'll cut it down.
And then they're going to slam it into an omnibus bill. Mm-hmm. And they're still going to fuck us. They're just going to fuck us slightly less and say you're welcome. And then,
you're welcome.
It's going to be, and then it'll get worse. It's going to get worse over time. Like, there'll be more and more shit that gets added. And then people ask, like, why are we frustrated with shitcoiners? Just let them be. Just let them do their own thing. It's like, you always cause this fucking bullshit for us.
Right.
And then we have to stick around and deal with the after effects and the fucking mess. Like, if everyone just stayed humble and stacked sats, we just wouldn't be in this situation right now. Like, there wouldn't be, millions of Americans that have lost their life savings in these scams, and we wouldn't have to deal with all the ripple effects that come with that shit. Like, you set us back over and over and over again out of pure greed. It's just pure fucking greed.
Degenerates. The degenerates ruin everything. And us humble sat stackers who are just trying to secure our value and the best monetary good that's ever existed are getting the blowback from it. And while we're on this tip too, I'm not sure if this was a hearing or a discussion in regards to FTX or this bill particularly, but pull up that level 39 tweet, Logan. I just want to highlight the caliber of quote-unquote expert that is dragged in front of our politicians here in the United States. As Professor Hillary Allen, I believe she's from the University of America, trying to explain how Bitcoin
There's
works.
A University of America?
I believe so. It's in D.C.
Where is the University of America located?
I think it's in D.C.
What a baller name.
American University.
I see no reason. The reason we typically hear is that crypto is different because it's decentralized, but in fact, it's not decentralized. At every level, there are people controlling things. So, we heard that that Bitcoin was decentralized. Well, Bitcoin is controlled by a few core software developers, fewer than 10, and they can make changes to the software, and then that software is implemented by mining pools, and there's just a few of them. So, in all these spaces, there are definitely people, often a very few people, pulling the strings, but the fact of the matter is that they are unidentified and unregulated, and that is not an ideal space to be in.
Yeah.
All right, so this woman is completely ignorant to how Bitcoin actually works. Professor Hillary Allen from American University, not University of America.
Yeah, I know American. University of America has a better ring to it.
It really does. But I mean, she's saying less than 10 Bitcoin developers control the code. I guess she's alluding to the maintainers of core who have merge access and can actually push the code. But again, that's number one, that may be true. They can merge code and push it live, but they're not actually always writing the code. And then number two,
the important part is running the code.
Yeah, exactly. Number two,
Right.
like individual node operators actually have to download the code. And so if the U.S. government found itself in a scenario where it was able to pressure the core maintainers who are geographically dispersed around around the world to write specific code for Bitcoin, which many of them don't actually, most of them are reviewers from what I understand. They actually don't write a lot of the code. They just review, comment, and merge. When there's consensus, like even if they somehow force them to write code that the government wanted in to Bitcoin, it could certainly merge it, push it live via the core repository, but people have to download it at the end of the day. And I find it very hard to believe that an individual node operator is going to download software dictated by the U.S. government.
Look, this is why we don't have auto updates in Bitcoin, because the auto update itself can be an attack. So people have to manually go and change the software that they're running on their computers. We call those nodes, right? The Bitcoin software, a Bitcoin node is ultimately the Bitcoin software that someone's running on their computer connected to the internet. That software dictates the rules that node follows on the network. In order to change the rules, you need people to manually update, and you need an overwhelming majority of them to do the update. Very hard to measure. This is why Bitcoin is extremely hard to change by default. It's really hard to get changes into Bitcoin. It's a feature, not a bug. Now, that's not the same case with shitcoins, which there's a lot of confusion there as a result, which I would say, try and attack shitcoins first would probably be the play here through that method, because there are a lot of people you can pressure relatively easily in shitcoin land. But ultimately, it comes down to actual people downloading, running the software. Most Bitcoiners will not run software that hurts them. It's like a very simple logic. Why would I hurt myself by running software that hurts me? If it's a consensus change, so it's a massive change, then all of a sudden you're working with a fork where you have two chains after that change happens. You have the original chain and you have this hard fork chain. Everyone gets equivalent Bitcoin on both sides of the chain. So I would just say, to anyone who says this reeks of Ripple change the code, bullshit, right? Which is like their policy the hashtag change the code is like to switch us to proof of stake. Go fucking do it. Try and do it and see what happens. And that's when the thing is like, so like Marty and I were like, we had a great presentation in Nashville this week to the U.S. Cattlemen's annual U.S. Cattlemen's Association annual meeting. And there was like this older individual, a cattleman, that was like, how do I know that the 21 million cap won't get changed? Well, if you can't verify it yourself, if you can't actually read the code and understand the code or whatnot, the easiest way is to just wait. And over time, you'll see that shit's not going to fucking change, right? And it's the same situation here. If you think you can change the code, go ahead and fucking try. And it's going to have a Streisand effect, because when you fail to change it to your cucked version of Bitcoin, everyone's going to start to wake up. There's going to be millions of people that look and they're like, oh my God, they couldn't change it. They tried to change it and they couldn't change it. And then there's a bunch of people that are going to realize. And we saw that on a smaller scale in 2017, where Barry, who still owes $900 million to Gemini users, tried to change the code of Bitcoin, and he failed. He had all the major companies try and do it together. It was all the big institutions in Bitcoin. We are Bitcoin. They were the ones who run Bitcoin or whatever, and they couldn't fucking change the code. And there was a bunch of us that were young Bitcoiners that looked at that and they were like, holy shit, this thing has legs. It's really a movement. It's really something that can defend our property rights in the digital era. And the same thing's going to happen over and over again. And I welcome it.
To date, that 2017 fork war and the outcome of that fork war is probably the most bullish catalyst. Bitcoin's biggest test to date. And who knows, maybe the government will try to change the code and pressure people to download it.
Change it. I want my proof of stake Bitcoin token on the fork chain. I'm ready.
Well, that wasn't the only thing she got wrong. She brought in mining pools. She was like, all we need to do is change the code, have these less than 10 developers push it, and then they coordinate with the mining pools and Bitcoin's change. That's how she portrayed it to Congress. Yeah. But again, obviously, that's not how it works. If a mining pool were to cooperate with the government's pushing of the code, individual miners are porting their hash at those pools, and they would, if they're logic, self-interested individuals who believe in what Bitcoin brings to the world, they will simply switch their hash to another pool within seconds or self-mine.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to 2017 again, right? Largest mining pool, largest miner, largest mining producer was on board as well with that change. And they got fucked. Like, the proof was in the pudding. That was Bitmain. He does not owe $900 million to Gemini users. But he got fucked nonetheless. And so, I mean, even where do nodes come in to miners? So like miners are constructing the blocks, right? Specifically because we don't have Stratum V2 yet with their block construction, where you have individual miners do the block construction. Right now, mining pool operators are the ones that are running the node for the individual miners, and they're choosing which transactions go into a block, right? They're forming the blocks. They're doing the verified proof of work to get them added to the chain. But ultimately, your individual node is making sure that anything they build, any block they build, complies with the rules that your node have set, these hard rules that your node have set. So the way I like to look at it, and I know it's a hot button topic for Bitcoiners, what secures the chain? Do the miners secure the chain? Do the nodes secure the chain? I like to look at nodes as vetoes. It's an individual veto. It's me saying, these are the rules that I'm following. If you don't follow these rules, it's not my Bitcoin. That's not my Bitcoin network.
Yeah. So if a miner,
not my president, not my Bitcoin network, and I just my node ignores those blocks if they don't comply with the rules set on my node.
Yeah, it's checks and balances. So if a mining pool were to mine the U.S. government sanctioned consensus rules, mine a block using those rules, and my node said, I don't follow those rules, it would reject that block as invalid and still be waiting for that block height from a mining pool or
a different miner that's using the actual rules of the network. Yeah,
it's checks and balances. It's a beautiful thing. Satoshi designed this network beautifully. The individual stakeholders that are able to check and balance each other. And again, the U.S. government hasn't learned yet, but the market has learned this lesson in the past with the 2017 fork war. But again, just to button up this topic, you have Professor Hillary Allen up there as a quote-unquote expert. She doesn't even understand how this works. And then she was sitting alongside Kevin O'Leary, who was paid $15 million, invested $10 million, paid 15, invested 5 of it. And he
invested 1 into equity, 1 million into equity, and then 9 million into shit coins that he didn't hold the keys for, and they were on FTX.
Yes. And he's up there saying Binance caused this. Like, it wasn't FTX. FTX was like, it's again, clown world, going back to the topic before this, which is the collapsing confidence in the U.S. government. How can anybody have confidence in the government if these are the experts that they're shoveling in front of us? Like, how the fuck does Kevin O'Leary get up there? Like, he's obviously a compromised individual. There's a massive conflict of interest there that should be obvious to anybody with any sense of logic.
Yeah, but also, like, I applaud any Bitcoiners. This is why, like, it's tough love on Coin Center. Like, I love when Peter Valkenburg, I definitely just butchered his name, like, speaks in front of Congress, because he knows what he's talking about. Like, the thing is like, like, they would have to put me up on there, like, kicking and screaming, right? It's like, there's a very small group of Bitcoiners that can talk in this situation, like, to a very good level, like, to a very understanding level. And then there's an even smaller subset that would then be willing to go into that fucking clown show and present.
If I were ever dragged into
dozens of people.
If I were ever dragged into the clown show, Marty Jones would be ripping his shirt off and being like, "You are all incompetent, corrupt, kleptocratic assholes. Fuck you."
You should do it, Marty. You should do it. Go testify. It'll be great TV.
Invite me. If I get invited, I will go and produce some great TV for everybody.
I'm looking forward to it.
Continuing the thread of government overreach into individual Americans.
To be clear, if I'm invited, I will not go.
You should go. What if we both get invited together?
Nah, fuck that shit.
Coinbase released its 2022 transparency report. We talk about this annually when they drop it. So this is from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th of this year. And here are the stats. They had 12,320 total law enforcement agency requests, 5,304. The highest volume of law enforcement and agency requests came from a single country, the U.S., less than half this year, but still a significant amount. 1,744 requests came from law enforcement and agency requests from a country other than the United States. 57% of law enforcement agency requests arose from outside the United States. So 43% from the U.S.
The same stat like 3 different ways here, but over 12,000 government demands to Coinbase to hand over customer information, which they complied in like 99% of the situations. They just handed over the information on their users to the government, and a little over 5,000 of that was in the U.S. With the biggest ones after that being the UK, Germany, and Spain. But there's a shit ton of countries that are included here on their list. And I would just say, first and foremost, Kraken, I believe, was the first that started doing this. Then Coinbase started doing it. The more the merrier. Like, if you're getting these, because they call them requests. They're not requests. They have no choice. Like, they're essentially gun to their head. Do you want to operate in our country? Like, you have to give us this information on your users. Like, if you're getting these requests, put out these transparency reports. They're very good for, Marty was saying, how do we explain the risks of this surveillance regime without users getting actively burned? Well, this is one of the ways we can do it, because we have these nice, it looks like GDocs, Google charts of the amount of information that you're handing over on your customers.
Yes. Be aware, freaks. The government wants your information. Coinbase has to give it to them. And luckily for us, even though we dump on Coinbase quite a bit, this is one thing where props are due with their transparency report. And as you can see, there's a bit of a Pareto distribution here. The U.S. makes up a lion's share, then behind them closely.
It's mostly us. UK,
Germany, and Spain. In terms of year-on-year growth in requests, Spain had a massive bump at 940%. Belgium was up 400%. Italy, 281%. Netherlands, 163%. Austria, 141%. So a lot of countries are beginning to request more information year in and year out. So be aware, if you're a Coinbase user, in any part of the world where it's available, the likelihood that your government's, maybe not your particular information, but is requesting information about other users in your country is high.
Scroll up, Logan. I think they said how many total users they have. Did they say 100 million total users? 108 million customers. I just want to be like, to our Bitcoin Twitter fam, the little bubble we live in. I just want you guys to know that the overwhelming majority of Bitcoin only businesses have not even close to that many customers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to, like, I have some privileged information, but I guess I could safely say that it's combined, all of them together is under 200,000 active users. So, like, not even a fucking fraction. It's not even a fucking fraction of Coinbase by itself, how many users they have.
Yes, I mean, that's objectively true, with the caveat and nuance being that Coinbase obviously has a big first mover advantage, having been around for almost 10 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how many Binance has. They also operate in more countries, right?
Yes.
Like most of the Bitcoin only companies, like they all have their niche, whatever jurisdiction they're based in. But my point is like there's Coinbase, Binance, and then maybe like
Cash App.
Kraken, Gemini, Cash App. But Cash App's at like 80 million users. And then there's everybody else. It's like there's a massive drop off. Just FYI. And this is why Coinbase's surveillance arm that actively spies on users of not only Bitcoin, but all the shitcoin chains they support as well, is particularly effective because they have way more insight into transactions than most other companies.
Yeah. So again, props where props are due. Shout out to Coinbase for sharing this information. It does give hope that they do have some cypherpunk tendencies and anti-state tendencies in that company. Just giving this information to people like, hey, look at how much your government's spying on you. Quite a bit. Moving on.
Quite a bit. Be aware, freaks.
This made a big splash. I believe this news was dropped like last Friday or over the weekend. It appears that Alameda bought a stake or gave out a massive loan to the Block's CEO, or bought a big stake in the Block via the CEO. Apparently, he didn't tell anybody. But it seems like SBF and crew invested directly in a media outlet that has had pretty rosy coverage of them throughout the years.
So that's what people missed on this story. Everyone got hung up on the apartment that was bought with a loan from FTX money. So, but really it was the crazier thing, the more fucked up part of this whole thing is that their loan was used to obtain majority ownership of the block. So there's this guy, Michael McAfee. He's the former CEO of the block. He stepped down when this news came out. Previously, he was chief of staff under Mike Dudas. And when Mike launched the block, he took VC money and he took investment from a bunch of exchanges, including Coinbase. Dudas leaves, starts a shitcoin fund or joins a shitcoin fund or something. Michael McAfee takes over and he makes this big push for the block to essentially buy out all their existing investors and make it 100% quote unquote employee owned. And part of that deal was a secret loan from FTX of $12 million that McAfee used to buy out everybody else, give himself majority ownership. But by extension, we don't know the terms of that loan. And presumably some of that can get converted into equity. Axios broke the story. They said some of it can get converted into equity. So FTX has some ownership of the block as well through that loan. Michael McAfee took took majority ownership of the block using this FTX money. Supposedly he did not share that information with anybody. They also had a liquidity crunch. He took another loan from FTX. It's like about the same amount of money. And then he took a third loan from FTX to buy a Bahamas apartment. In total, it came out to about $30 million. This wasn't exposed, but it just goes to show. And so he stepped down as CEO. He's still the block's main owner. He's the majority shareholder that he used FTX money, which, by the way, was also FTX customer money because they don't have any money. And the whole time they were grandstanding about being employee owned. It does suck for the employees. It does seem like a lot of the employees, if not the majority, if not all of them, were in the dark. But it just goes to show like something that we've said so many times. And part of the reason why I was willing to come out into the public eye after being a NIM on Twitter for years and years and years is that crypto media, quote unquote crypto media, has always been corrupt. There's been corruption on all these different levels. Like we've called out the block a million times because their sponsors their sponsorship agreements are all tied into all this bullshit. Like even without the secret, buying out of investors with FTX money, there was already a corruption element there. But this just takes it to a whole nother level. So like in this aftermath of FTX, we find out Bankless is making $250,000 a month on absolute scam sponsorships. We find out that the former FTX CEO, the former Block CEO, I guess it doesn't really matter, and majority shareholder got secret loans to buy out all the investors and basically make it so that an FTX proxy was the majority holder of the block. And before all of that even happened, Barry, who owes $900 million to Gemini users, bought CoinDesk. He just bought CoinDesk and made it his PR arm for all the bullshit that he's doing. So like the whole crypto fucking media landscape is just all one overlapping Venn diagram of corruption and bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned this last week where I was like, because we brought up a Block article and the kvetching of Larry Semak or Cermak, whatever his name is, and others at the Block. Lawmaster, yes, they may not have been privy to this, but they were big champions of this guy and were probably benefiting financially up till they got rugged from advocating for these shit coins and driving retail to it. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't shocked.
Did you see Lawmaster's tweet?
No.
But he was like, I got triple rugged on this because he had funds in FTX that don't exist. Those funds were commingled and loaned to buy out his own company that he wasn't aware of. And then, he was the one who compiled the whole list of Alameda's $5.4 billion quote unquote venture portfolio that listed those loans in the first place. So he kind of rugged himself.
Yes. I mean, we should probably use this opportunity to highlight the show is sponsored by companies in the space too, but we try to be upfront and critical of our sponsors.
I think we're more critical of our sponsors than other companies. But yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why the dream is to move to a value for value model where it's direct audience funding. But I think we're actively critical of our sponsors. I mean, we've made fuck ups in the past. We've been critical of them. We've dropped them. But yeah, I mean, it is a problem. But just like FTX essentially bought the Block. FTX essentially bought Bankless with 250. Like, I just want to be absolutely clear to you freaks. Like, if we were getting anywhere near that level of money, RHR just wouldn't exist anymore. I would just have stacked the sats and I just would have left. We like slogged through all this bullshit week in and week out. And like in comparison to all these guys, it's just fucking pennies.
Yeah.
I don't even want KYC sponsors, let alone like all these shitcoin scam bullshits.
Yeah. $250K a month would be sweet. Unfortunately, not there yet. Not there.
You see Marty dreaming of what he could buy with it?
So many sats. So many goddamn sats.
God damn, man. The incentives are all broken.
Yeah.
The incentives are all fucking out of whack.
And then that's like that's the part that pisses me off the most too, is that then particularly the Bankless guys, like they're shedding tears on their show. So like, what's going on? All these scammers. It's like you're enabling them.
And then like a Nexo ad pops up.
Yeah. Well, no, while he's crying. So I have a tweet thread about this somewhere. While he's crying about this, there's this ad for TrueFi, some DeFi protocol that's promising 29%.
Don't use it, freaks.
That's promising 29% APY to their users, and then it's like a typical like scam parallax website. They have how much interest you're going to get on your deposits, and you scroll down one section, it's like the trusted by these companies in the space, and the first one's Alameda Capital. It's like, you fucking assholes. Like, you're there crying because FTX rugged everybody, yet you're pumping some scam that is trusted by Alameda.
And then the other thing that like pisses me off is like at least like take personal responsibility and like say sorry. It doesn't solve things. But like, stop making excuses. Stop making bullshit excuses. Just be like when like the Compass shit unfolded, man, like that broke me inside. Like we were very upfront with our audience. Like I still feel bad to this day about the Compass deal, and that Compass was a sponsor of our show for 3 months. But even at that point when we dropped them, first of all, we were actively critical of them before we dropped them. But even at the point we dropped them, there was other shows in the space that continued to work with them constantly. Just ignore all the issues. Some of them still work with them today. And the ones that did drop them later on just didn't even acknowledge it. They just dropped them from the list of sponsors and just like continued forward. Like their actions don't have consequences, or that they have no responsibility to their audience whatsoever to try and be the best possible. Right.
Yes.
And it just breaks me. A year after year of being in this space, it just breaks me inside because the incentives are all skewed because most people just don't even give a shit.
No, I like to think that we give a shit. Always hold us to account. I mean, obviously Compass was one that we regret.
That was bad.
I think BlockFi was one we were on top of. As soon as they added the interest rate stuff, we dropped them immediately.
Yeah, they were our sponsor before 2019, and then as soon as they added the yield product, we dropped them.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were a very outspoken anti-BlockFi.
Yeah. But we'll try. We're gonna try to be upfront.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do things the right way, if there's such a thing.
Yeah. Braj wants you to know that you're unbreakable, which I agree with.
I feel. Well, you miss it. You're unbreakable, baby. You gotta keep the baby in there.
Baby.
I don't feel that way. But yeah. I've always my philosophy since we started the show, and my philosophy on every other thing that I do in this space, is that if someone can do it better than me, I will just happily promote them. Just go use their thing, do their thing. Like if that niche is filled and someone else can do it better, let them fucking do it. I'll just humbly stack sats and enjoy my life and chill with my family and, do something else. That has always been my outlook on this. So it's been an absolute pleasure and journey to be along this ride with all the freaks and with Marty. It's been an honor and a privilege.
And it will continue to be an honor and a privilege while we continue doing this until somebody better or some people better come along.
Well, I've always said that we'll know we made it when there's a little Marty Bent that is yelling about conspiracies about how me and Marty are controlling everything and how we're out to get them. And at that point, I'm just going to be sipping my espresso.
It's all yours.
Like,
take it.
We made it.
Take it, little Marty. I'm tired. It's going to be Forrest Gump. I have the you're going to know the bent's done. My last bent, when I have this feeling where it's like, all right, people who are better have come along, and I don't. People are in good hands. My last bent is just going to be the meme of Forrest Gump stopping his run when he's like running across the country. He has the big beard. And that's when you'll know the bent is over. That's my bent is over canary. Moving on. Wait, before we move on, I just have to ask, since you're now the co-host of Bitcoin Review with NVK, like, do we just not do software updates anymore? Is this?
I actually, NVK refused my co-host position, so I'm no longer doing that with him.
Oh.
But there just were no software updates to report on this week. We do software updates.
There was one. I added it.
What is? Oh, Bitcoin Core 24.1.
Yes. So we had a major release last week, Bitcoin Core version 0.24.0. That had a bug in it pertaining to coin selection. There was a coin selection bug that would jack your fees up, so you'd pay significantly higher fees than were necessary. They patched that and released version 0.24.1. With that being said, I don't think people are actually even able to download Core on the website.
It's just Bitcoin Core 24 now.
Yeah.
Well, it's 24.1, but 24 is removed. Also, don't update Bitcoin Core right away.
There's no rush.
What was the issue with 24?
There was a bug with coin selection where some particular coin selection.
That sounds like it could be pretty bad.
Yeah, it would jack up fees. You spend more Bitcoin than you wanted to.
I'm glad you added that to the list.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't update Bitcoin Core right away, period. I still haven't, on my cold storage, I haven't, my main cold storage node, I haven't even upgraded to Taproot yet. Humbly.
Yeah, I think I'm still running like version 0.21 or something like that. Actually, no, I think that had a bug.
But yeah, anyway, like Bitcoin.review was fun. It was a fun journey. I love MVK. I'm glad he's now a sponsor of this podcast. But you know, time is money and time is scarce. And after doing the first 11 episodes with him, I would have been down to proceed 50-50, but like anything short of that, I might as well focus on Rabbit Hole Recap and Scylla Dispatch. So it is what it is, and I look forward to listening to it. And if he can give RHR a run for its money, then bless his heart, and I look forward to listening.
More competition. Let the flowers
blow. But
bloom.
we are definitely going to include software updates because that is one of my favorite parts of the show. And yeah, that is not a intentional omission.
Okay, good. I'm sorry if I made an awkward segment there bringing up Bitcoin Review. I was not aware this was going on.
It's good. Clearly not a listener because the last 2 rips I have not been on.
Well, I know he did Harry and Steve. I have it in... Actually, if you listen to the episode I did with Rod, Building in Bits podcast, I explain on that.
Builders in Bitcoin.
Builders in Bitcoin. We have Talking Bits. With,
Rod has 3 podcasts
with Jose
now.
here. I did Pod 256 and Builders in Bitcoin with Rod. And in the Builders in Bitcoin episode, I explain my strategy for the content creation, which is I don't listen to anybody else's podcast. Though I did say every once in a while.
Blinders.
I listen, Blinders. I do listen to Citadel Dispatch when I want to take a deep technical dive on a certain subject. Go check it out. Rod's a great host. You bombarded our episode.
What?
When we were recording, you just burst into the studio. Yeah.
Yeah, Rod's done that to me 5 times, so it was important that I did it to him at least once. And I wanted to say hi to you because you were in Nashville, so I came in to say hi.
It's a great time in Nashville. The Bitcoin Park, can't give you guys enough praise for it. It's an incredible spot. And I'll be back.
That, and
I'll be back next month.
Perfect. I know you freaks like listening to podcasts since you're listening right now. All the content that happens at Bitcoin Park, well, not all the content, but a select portion of the content. You have to actually go there to see all the content and be a part of the Q&A and whatnot. But a lot of the content is posted to our Bitcoin Park podcast feed. If you search Bitcoin Park in your favorite podcast app, click that subscribe button.
Smash it. Should we go? Let's go to shoutouts.
But we look forward to hosting you in January, Marty. And yeah, you're always welcome. I want you to consider it a home away from home. I want all Bitcoiners to consider it a home away from home in Nashville.
Matt, I want you to check Slack real quick for this first shout out. I'll go to the second and then let me know. This is all the shout out is what I'm going to send you in Slack. Let me know if you think we should read this on air. I want to be
Would you send it? I hate Slack. By the way, Marty created a TFTC Slack, and when I joined the Slack, my first message in the TFTC Slack was all caps, I hate Slack.
Second shout out.
So I'm clicking this link. What am I clicking? Is this like an ad?
That's what I'm like. Is it an ad? It seems.
What does it say in the thing?
I think it's a Lightning node.
It's like Electrum node and stuff?
Yeah.
A public Electrum node?
Yeah.
No, we can read this.
Okay. I'll read
this. I'll just give a disclosure afterwards.
All right. I'll read the second shout out, then we'll get to that one. Marty and Matt, you make a great podcast. Keep up the good work. You inspire me to write in when you said you wanted to get your son on a sheep to go mutton busting. We have a sheep farm and raise 100% grass-fed lamb. I will not name our farm because that would be a shameless ad. We've been accepting Bitcoin for our lamb since 2018 and have had a whopping total of 1 sale with Bitcoin. I've been interested in your talks with Texas Slim about the it's the beef initiative now, because that is what we aim to do. Market a superior product directly to the consumer. Although we're not in Texas and we don't raise beef, I'm currently trying to navigate getting added on to the Oshi app. We'll see how that goes. Any other suggestions would be appreciated. In the meantime, next time you make your way to Pennsylvania, reach out and I'll bring a sheep up to the corral, up to the corral, and you can stick your son on it. I would love to do that. He's telling me not to read this because it's the website to his farm, but I don't mind. I don't see this as a shameless ad. We want to support our farmers. So it's www.lost/sheep/ranch.com. www.lost/sheep/ranch.com.
Is it dash? Is it dash?
Dash, not slash. www.lost.
You can't have slash. That's not how websites work, Marty.
www.lost-sheep-ranch.com.
It's Lost Sheep Ranch with dashes.
Yes.
Appreciate you, freak.
Another way to describe the URL. In terms of the advice you asked for, any other suggestions would be appreciated. I guess just make it clear when people are buying sheep from you that like you do accept Bitcoin, and maybe if you prefer Bitcoin to dollars when you're doing your cash for sheep trades.
It says now accept payment in Bitcoin on the website.
Yeah. Let people know, like maybe the suggestion would be to say I prefer Bitcoin.
This is great. In John 21:17, Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." We took him literally.
So shout out to
looks like they have an attached plumbing service too. Never going to have robot plumbers or robot ranchers, so love to see it.
Shout out to the Lost Sheep Ranch. It looks like a beautiful ranch too.
Yeah, always have a discount. Always have a discount for Bitcoin if you want to hold Bitcoin yourself. It's good because it's a great way to stack. So a discount is always great. We have Ride or Die Freak Tom in the comments mentioning a discount, and I agree with him.
Yes.
All
right, first shout out, Matt.
And also, wait, before you go, Marty, like I hear this all the time. It's like people are like, how do I contribute to Bitcoin? Like, how do I make the Bitcoin movement grow? How do I do better by Bitcoin and the Bitcoin network? And then I always ask them, I was like, well, what do you do for a living? And then they go like, I'm a doctor. I was like, okay, so like be a doctor that accepts Bitcoin, like help Bitcoiners with health stuff. You know, like I'm a dentist, like do Bitcoiners' teeth for Bitcoin. You know, like it's great. We want more people to learn how to code, but not everyone has to learn how to code. Like if you do something well, if you like doing it, start using Bitcoin as your money, start providing discounted services to Bitcoiners. It helps everybody.
Agreed. We accept Bitcoin here. We're podcasters who accept Bitcoin.
Not a podcaster.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not a podcaster. I hate when people call me a podcaster, actually. I'm sorry for throwing that misnomer on us.
We're Bitcoiners that just happen to every week for the last 5 years come to you live on a podcast.
Yes. It's a medium to do our Bitcoining.
The framing.
Okay, here's the first shout out. It's a website. It's a URL, bitcoinserver.nl. And there's a list of public services, an archival listening full node, a lightning node, an Electrum server. They're running C Lightning. So I'm assuming that the intention of this shout out was to make people aware of these servers and these lightning nodes to potentially connect to. With that being said, I don't know this person.
Does it not say any? Does it just? It's literally just the domain.
Yes, it's just the domain, literally.
Well, that was pretty lazy, guy. Like you didn't even put a little shout out in there. You just dropped in a URL.
Yes, that's all.
Okay, well,
it was actually confusing. I was looking through the shout out. It came in a shout out. I'm like, where is? I was like, oh, it's this little URL.
The Lightning node is one thing. The public Electrum server can be useful. Basically, you can like connect Sparrow or Electrum to it instead of using your own full node.
We should caveat this adversarial thinking. This could be a spook.
Yeah, that was my next comment. Like, if it's not your node, then you're trusting them with the verification and you're trusting them with your privacy. So just keep that in mind. But yeah,
could not be a spook.
And also, like,
could be a spook. We don't know.
If you're gonna do a shout, like, put a little cute message with it. You know, don't just like drop a URL in. But thank you, Freak. We appreciate the support.
Maybe he only speaks Dutch.
I think I knew Bitcoin server.nl already. Like, I think they're one of the major Electrum, public Electrum nodes.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, it just seems like he's running a bunch of nodes for Bitcoin. Yeah. It might be one of the node runners from Amsterdam. They have a group there called Node Runners. I drank with a bunch of them when I was there for Bitcoin Amsterdam.
Okay. Do you trust them?
No, just use your own node, freaks. And then, like, if you're not going to use your own node, I don't know. I use one of the ones that Craig pre-selected for you in Sparrow. There's like 4 of them there.
Craig,
There's
right?
like MZ, Blockstream, Craig Raw, the good Craig. I fucked up his name in dispatch, and I still feel bad about it. So
Did you call him Greg? What'd you call him?
I know you listen to other podcasts, so I know it wasn't a dig at me, but it felt like one.
No,
The Mutiny Dispatch. Did you listen to the Mutiny Dispatch?
I caught like
with
45
Ben
minutes
and
of it,
Paul?
but apparently I missed that part.
It was because Paul was talking about his vision for Mutiny, and in my head I was just thinking like Mutiny PV, like Mutiny Paul's vision, and then Sparrow came up, and I said
Craig,
the wrong
right?
Craig's name. Yeah.
Hate to see it. Love to see that we get 3 shout-outs this week. Last one. Thanks for all the value you both provide. My friend at BitDern and I wanted to support the show and recognize Josh, Rod, Matt, and Mills for what they are building at Bitcoin Park. If any of you freaks haven't visited, we can't recommend it enough. We met so many great people at the open house, Beef Initiative Micro Summit, and Seed Signer Workshop. We even had time to get a burger with Shores, and coach him up on how Bitcoin works before his appearance on TFTC. Question for Matt. Is Shores the first core dev at the park, or is Keith Mackay going to retroactively get that title? Peace and love from the Windy City. We're going to win. At Scar City FC and at BitDern.
Dern is fucking awesome.
Yes, he
It was
is.
a pleasure to meet him. He was really surprised because the first day he was at the park, we were all going out drinking to the bar, and I saw them like walking away, and I was like, "Where are you going? You're not going to join us?" And he's like, "Oh, I have a job interview, and then I have to speak with Slim on the panel at the Beef Initiative tomorrow at the park." And he was like, should I join you? And I was like, no, you should go to bed. And they were just like so blown away at the responsibility of my.
I'm blown away that was your suggestion.
And then I went to bed. That was the night that
you went to bed
that
at
was
8 that night.
No. That was the night that you Irish exited us.
Oh, that was that night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big Irish exit guy.
Yeah, I went to sleep pretty late that night, and I woke up the next morning. I was like, should have listened to my own advice.
Yeah, that's my
next day.
That's my MO at a bar. If I know I'm not going to try and hang around and be like, I'll stay till close. If I'm like I need to go to bed, I just exit. No need to say goodbye.
Yeah, but Dern was solid. We had a great group in Nashville this week.
I heard after I left, you guys were talking about the Irish exit, and you coined the phrase the FT exit. Is this true?
No, that wasn't an FT exit. So
no, I did not FT exit. I would never FT exit.
That was just an Irish exit, and supposedly I didn't know this. Is this a Philly thing? A shady dip?
The shady dip, yeah, is a thing. Yeah.
Is that a Philly thing? It's an Irish exit. It's just like when you get up and just walk away. You walk out. You don't say goodbye to anybody.
Yeah.
An FT exit is when you also have an open tab that your friends have to pay for you. Yes. So it involves commingling funds and some minor league fraud
and rugging.
Yeah,
rug your friends. Leave the bar.
That's an FT exit. Yeah.
I was so drunk, man. I was so drunk.
Coined that after you did a shady dip. I had never heard shady dip before. I like it, but I always called it Irish exit.
See, I prefer Irish exits because shady. There's nothing shady about it. It's not like I was like, oh, I'll be right back.
No, it's just a really efficient way of leaving.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna say goodbye to 10 people. I'm just gonna leave.
You're just being responsible.
Yes. Have to take advantage of it. If you can get 8 hours of sleep when you're a father of 2, you do it. That was my decision.
Yeah, I mean, you look like a zombie for like the 3 hours leading up to that too.
Yeah, I had a 6 a.m. flight that morning. It was a long day. All right, that's it for the shout-outs.
But yeah, Shores was the first core dev, first of many, hopefully, at Bitcoin Park.
Has Steve
So it was a pleasure
contributed to core?
Myers?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Just BDK?
But maybe. Maybe. A lot of respect for Steve as well, regardless of his core contribution history.
Yes.
Steve runs our bit devs, which we also had last week.
We have bit devs tonight here in the Commons. If you're in Austin and you can make it, pre-game starts. It's not pre-game, but pre-festivity start at 6. Bit devs will start at 7, right outside this door.
I cannot make it, unfortunately, but appreciate the invite.
I was expecting you to hop on a flight and be here.
I was at the last one, second row.
You were participating quite a bit too.
I love bit devs.
I do as well.
It's good. It's special.
Back to the list. We have a few more topics here. We're approaching 2 hours. This was a big one dropped today. Jack Dorsey provides a 15 Bitcoin grant to the Nostr project. 14. I said 15.
Actually, it was 14.17199 or something like that.
It was like 240 grand worth of Bitcoin at the price it was sent. I thought I didn't put it in here, but if you go to JB55, you go to his Twitter account, Logan, JB55, there's an announcement tweet of the grant, and they have a live Google Doc of their plans.
It's in there in the no bullshit if you go down to the bottom and click the PDF. The Google Doc got overrun, so they released a PDF.
Oh, they did?
And then they removed edit access, yeah.
Okay.
There it is, yeah.
So, yeah, they're already planning on how to disperse the funds. There's going to be some bounties that they put out there. They're going to distribute some funds to individuals.
Love to see this.
Yeah.
This is fucking awesome.
Matt's had JB55 and Fiat Joff on Citadel Dispatch talking about
and
Nostr.
Kooks.
And Kooks. I've
Who's
had
one of the top contributors as well.
I've had JB55 on TFTC to talk about this. This has been a project. It's probably over a year old now at this point.
Yeah, the Dispatch episode is 63. So Nostr or Nostr or no one knows how to pronounce it. There's no correct pronunciation.
Nostr is how JB55 pronounces it.
Is basically this communication protocol that can be used for many different things, and it's inherently censorship resistant because you can run your own server and you can move across servers very easily.
They communicate using WebSockets, which is pretty distributed.
It's really clever. The trade-off balance they use. Fiat Joff is one of our most clever Bitcoin contributors that we have on this fucking planet. Like the guy just like loves practical, cool trade-off models. Like he doesn't try and reinvent the wheel. Like this is not like there's no P2P architecture. Like you even like read the GitHub, it's fucking hilarious. Like his description of Nostr in the GitHub. But the main traction point, the main usage we've seen so far, you can use Nostr for a bunch of different things, is a censorship resistant Twitter alternative. And it's fantastic to see Dorsey donate and contribute to this. And it was really cool. He was like on Twitter, he was like participating in Telegram, he was like trying out the different clients. And then he was like, I want to give you money. Like, how do I give you money? They like didn't have a way to set up. So like he just sent them fucking Bitcoin. Like there's no like foundation or any of that other bullshit. It's just like he asked Fiat Joff for a fucking Bitcoin address. And then like he takes out his mobile wallet and just like fucking sends them Bitcoin.
Well, I hope it wasn't his mobile wallet.
I mean, the chain does not lie. But how
can you tell it's a mobile wallet from the chain?
Well, it was a 2 of 2 multi-sig transaction with Taproot history, so it was probably a Moon wallet. Sent a 15 Bitcoin transaction on Moon wallet. But that's pretty fucking awesome, right? You just fucking send it. Like people make Bitcoin seem super complicated, but it's at its core, it's like the simplest money we've ever had. You can just send money to a complete stranger. And now JB55 and Fiat Jaff and the other like co-leads at Nostr, which is an open source project, are basically coming up with a plan in place on how to distribute those funds for the max effectiveness, including bounties and milestones. And I would just say, as someone who is part of the OpenSats bounty program that was funded by Strike, and we actually gave 1 Bitcoin to JB55 for his Bolt 12 work. Got to make sure that these bounties are written very concise and but also very specific and clear, because there was a bunch of headaches when it came time. Yeah. Like, I remember JB55 is like, I don't know if I won the bounty or not. Like, it was like 4 or 5 months before we paid him. I was like, yeah, it's because the bounties could have been written better. And you think they're written well until it comes time to distribution. So just try and make sure that's good. But this is extremely well deserved. Absolutely love to see it. Hopefully our children will have more censorship resistant communication methods, including Twitter alternatives, going forward. That's the future we want to see.
Agreed. I like Damus, which JB55 built, if you're looking for a client to interact with Nostra. It's really good. It's getting close too to like Twitter parity. It is a bit different and a bit confusing from a UX perspective, but hopefully this grant from Jack helps them improve all of that. And I believe from a technical perspective, like the biggest hurdle they have to overcome is spam prevention, which they haven't been subjected to yet, but they see it as a potential problem on the horizon. So hopefully these funds can be used to prevent that and make sure that we have this sufficiently distributed social network.
It's easy to say, Marty.
I know.
The way spam prevention is like literally, there are so many like complex bullshits that got built out through the internet just at the core of spam prevention.
Your internet just crapped out.
It's raining here really badly.
Yeah, I can tell.
I'm back now though, right?
Yeah, you're back now. But that was like when JB55 came on TFTC, he said the most encouraging validation of what they're building with Nostr was the fact that Chinese citizens were using it to coordinate behind the scenes and outside the purview of the CCP. And I believe during the most recent riots, I forget where they were, the Beijing, for the COVID lockdowns, there was a lot of activity from Chinese nationals using Damus particularly to coordinate because it's a truly distributed social network that anybody can use.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the spam prevention side, it'd be cool to there's different things you can do with Lightning in terms of putting a cost to spam. But yeah, this is why Bitcoin transaction fees exist. Because if we didn't have Bitcoin transaction fees, you could just fill up my node with blockchain data by sending transactions back and forth to yourself. And the reason we have transaction fees is so if you do that, you're going to run out of money eventually. There's an actual cost to filling up that block data.
Yes.
But yeah,
that's what Hashcash
has some interesting concepts there in terms of spam prevention that he was talking about on our dispatch. The guy's very clever. He's very clever. But I just want to be very clear that to anyone who's been paying attention, the simple term, they just have to fix the spam issue is that's
I said it was the biggest hurdle. It's a big hurdle.
I know. I was just massive PTSD. It's just you can't, that is always the issue. I mean, you see it on fucking Twitter, right? It's centralized censorship everywhere. They require KYC, essentially like KYC with phone numbers and shit. And they have a massive spam problem still to this day.
Yeah. I mean, spam problem, that's where the Hashcash algorithm came from. It was a spam prevention tool, but didn't have a difficulty adjustment, so it just became... What happened? It just became too hard to actually prevent the spam at some point. I
don't know what happened with Hashcash.
I think since there was I think it just wound up not being a spam.
I think none of it really mattered because we just went completely captured, and now just like Google decides what's spam and what's not. So,
yeah, I'm liking Proton Mail. Big Proton Mail phone here. It's a bit clunkier. Calendar's not the best, but it works. Makes me feel better.
Might be a honeypot.
Hey, you're contradicting yourself.
What?
You're gonna tell people not to use Proton Mail? Should they use Gmail or Proton
Would you
Mail?
verify? I mean, Proton Mail is definitely better than Gmail.
Yes. I mean, we had an episode earlier this year about like the privacy wars, like what VPN works, what email works, and it's like by calling everything a honeypot, you disincentivize people from actually using good technology. That may be good enough.
Yeah, but it might be a honeypot.
Might be. Google's definitely a honeypot.
I mean, that's just like, yeah. That's just a surveillance company running a free email product.
I've got Parker Lewis texting me right now. I'm surprised he didn't come in here. Parker, if you're listening, maybe you can come in. We can talk.
Why is he asking you questions?
Well, because
Unrelated?
on March 17th of this year, we're having the second ever Bitcoin takeover at South by Southwest here at the Bitcoin Commons. Tickets are limited. So if you guys want to attend that event, we had our first one last year. Matt, you were there. You had an incredible
It was great.
in-depth interview with Andrew Polstra where you spoke for 3 seconds and then he spoke for 45
Best
minutes.
interview of all time. You can listen to it on the Still Dispatch feed.
Yes.
Single best interview I've ever done.
So that's going to be March 17th.
I love it. What did I say? I was like, so why is open source, the open source movement important to you? And then he just spoke for 28 minutes and then I thanked him.
And it was the most enthralling story of
great.
his open source journey and why Bitcoin's
The number
important.
one thing, the number one pet peeve I have with people is, I mean, for Rabbit Hole Recap, it's fine because we're brothers and we just do it every week. So we should cut each other off all the time. But the number one issue that people have is, as quote unquote podcasters, is their ego is too full of themselves and they don't let like the guest just continue talking.
See, I
Like,
get yelled
if the guest
at.
has something good to say, just step the fuck away, let them finish their thought. And Andrew just was a legend and he just kept going. So I just sat there and enjoyed the show with everyone else.
I agree with that approach to podcasting and interviewing people. Let them talk. I get yelled at for letting people talk too much and not interrupting.
No, yeah, they're the show. We're just the coordinator or whatever.
Listening. That's if you're going to be interviewing, you're listening and asking questions when silence arises. Yeah. So last year we had Andrew Polstra, Jack Mallers was there, Lisa Nygaard, a bunch of people in the mining industry. Senator Lummis was here. The roster should be packed on March 17th, 2023 as well. So if you're interested, you're in Austin, come join us at the Bitcoin Takeover here at the Bitcoin Commons. We have more on the list. Sort of break up that Nostr grant with the Twitter files news of this week. And it's become apparent that the FBI was coordinating directly with Twitter's head of safety, Yoel Roth, to
Who was
censor
like,
people.
There was like ex-spooks that were part of
Yes,
the...
ex-FBI, ex-CIA that were riddled throughout the business as well, dictating policy.
Yeah, I mean, that's surprising.
No, but it's just like, again, we don't live in a free country. That's why Nostr is important.
I love the evolution of that statement from Marty. He just like sighs and he's like, we don't live in a free country anymore.
But it is like, that's why JFK got his brains blown out, because he said that the CIA need to be...
Because of Twitter censorship.
Well, he said the CIA needs to be broken into 10,000 pieces and fucking thrown to the wind. These people have been corrupt since their inception. The intelligence apparatus in the United States is probably the most dangerous apparatus, and the intelligence community does not want you to be free. They want to control the world. They were trying to control speech and narratives on Twitter, banned the Hunter Biden story, kicked Trump off, probably had some coordination efforts around COVID narratives and stuff like that. These agencies are not here to help you. They're here to gain more power.
Indeed.
Last thing we have on the list, we were talking about like losing confidence in the dollar system and our financial system earlier. This is something I wrote about in the Bent on Monday. That really plays into that theme, which is the fact that due to we have this increasing interest rate environment with Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve increasing rates, that has had a crazy effect on the amount of interest that is owed on all the debt that the U.S. government has accrued over the last many decades, and now currently stands at $766 billion a year in interest payments alone, just the interest payments, none of the principal, on all the debt that we've accrued. And so when you compare that to other unfunded liabilities like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the military budget, it is right behind the military budget, which is hovering around like $775 billion. You go up, Social Security is like $1.4 trillion, and the Medicare, Medicaid, I believe, is the most expensive part of the unfunded liabilities. There's like $1.7 trillion. So the interest that we owe on the debt that the U.S. has accrued is approaching, it is the number 4. It's the 4th largest unfunded liability that we have, and it will be really interesting to see how this affects interest rate policy in 2023, because obviously here in 2022, with interest rates rising, stock markets crash, Bitcoin crash, crypto crash, real estate crash. So a lot of people are going to be claiming losses on their taxes for 2022. That means the tax receipts next year are probably going to be significantly lower than they were last year. I believe they were like $4 trillion. And so I believe the annual unfunded liabilities is around $5 trillion.
We made $4 trillion in taxes last year?
Yeah, it was an all-time high. Because I mean, you had the stock market going, Bitcoin going, every real estate booming.
Trillion?
Trillion. Yeah.
That sounds really high.
I mean, that's what it was.
In tax revenue?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not gonna be that high next year.
I didn't realize it was that high.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was significantly less than that.
And we still had $1 trillion deficit.
So how big is our deficit?
Last year was $1 trillion, so we had $5 trillion.
How big is our debt? Right. Deficit is the difference. Right?
Yes.
But our debt is how many trillions?
I mean, the annual payment on those liabilities was $5 trillion that we needed to pay, but the overall unfunded liabilities was larger than that. Obviously, you only had to pay.
These are large numbers, freaks.
Very large. Very large.
29 trillion is our total national debt?
Yes.
That's I didn't confirm that. A freak just posted that in the comments.
It sounds about right. It's probably going to be into the 30s next year when tax receipts.
So they hiked rates again yesterday. Another quote unquote 50 basis points. Like all the finance guys, we talking basis points now, right? Not like 0.5%.
Bips. Basis points is for the layman. We use bips in finance, okay?
50 bips, so 0.5%, right? Is what they raised it. But the thing is like, well, and so everyone was bullish. They're like, oh, inflation was low at 7.1% in manipulated bullshit number. It's like food was over 10% inflation.
And with that number too, people completely discount the fact that it's coming off a higher base too. Like inflation started going up last year.
Because it's year over year.
Yeah.
It's year over year. So not a financial professional, just a humble sat stacker over here. They might it takes a lot of ego to think you can lower rates again in general. Like who's going to lend money? Why would I lend money to the US government for less than 5%? If they have all this, like if their money's fucking broken and it's inflationary and they're printing a shit ton of it, and I don't have any faith or trust in them, why would I lend them money at a low rate?
I don't know why you would. I certainly wouldn't. But the
U.S. government takes a lot of it takes a lot of ego to think that there's a situation here where they completely lose control of rates.
Oh yeah,
and that we just never see rates go down until the fall of the dollar.
Well, wouldn't be the fall of the dollar. Because lower rates would mean more printing, which would mean You have two.
No,
you have two,
but that's
You have two. It's not it's not that one. The scenario you're describing isn't a fall of the dollar. It's a default on the debt. So essentially, it's a failure of the U.S. government to pay back their liabilities.
well, no, you print money. You print money to pay the debt.
Yeah, that's when rates are going down. That's how that happens.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean like rates go down in that situation. Like, isn't that just?
No, because if you're raising rates, you're trying to pull dollars out of the system to reduce inflation.
Right.
The way you put dollars back in is you lower rates, incentivize lending, creation of new dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
But inflation would be running hot in that situation.
Well, yeah, it's already running hot. So like it would just like there's going to be a so what's going to happen? Parker and I talk about this a lot.
Well, why would you lend money below the rate of inflation?
I don't know.
You have a negative real return.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've already had real negative rates in other parts of the world. So it's
I'm
like
just laughing at the comments.
It's like the least maybe it's because it's like the least negative return you could get. Try to lose the least amount of money possible.
My point is, I think
it's
we
fucked.
end up in a situation where
it's fucked.
where they're printing money, but then rates are still going up because
you can't do that.
They're not a trusted counterparty.
That's not how it works, though.
But they're not setting the rates.
Well, they're setting the targets, and the way you hit those targets. You set targets, and then
they're like pulling levers. They're pulling levers and hoping that they get the rates that they expect.
Well, what you do is you set those targets, and the way you reach those targets is by, if you're lowering interest rates, you push money in until you get to that target. If you're jacking them up, you pull money out.
So inflation's at 30% in 2 years. Let's just say
30
theoretically. Yeah.
Okay.
What is our mortgage rates?
Probably
they're printing money, so inflation's running hotter than it would otherwise. Right, we're at 7% right now. Okay, 15%. 30 seems unrealistic. 15% in 2 years. That's the inflation. That's their manipulated inflation number, right? That's the one that they have the reduced number of. But they're printing, right? They're printing because their debt service is too high. They need to print. All of our debt is in US dollars. What is the mortgage rate in that scenario, even though they're printing and maybe they're even doing QE? Like, what is the mortgage rate in that scenario? It's got to be over 15%, right? Or it's got to be close to that. It's got to be like 12% or something, right?
Again, it's all dependent on the Fed funds rate, which I would imagine would be
like
lower.
Right now. Yeah, but right now the mortgage rates are like 7% or something.
7 or 8%. Yeah, it's going to be above the Fed funds rate because you need to make a little vig there. So I think it's like 8.
I just wonder, it seems like that we've lived in this like relatively quiet, peaceful time where like they thought they can just pull levers and decide what the interest rates are that people lend the money at. But like,
it's not how complex system works. Complex systems work.
I feel like it could spiral out of control really easily here.
What if I told you?
In a situation.
What if I told you?
Print money and rates go up.
What if I told you it's already spiraling out of control?
But
we're in the middle of it.
Like where they go in reverse, right? And they go to print money, but rates continue to go up. Like that's a possibility, right?
No, because you can't raise rates and print money at the same time.
Why can't you?
Because the whole reason to raise rates,
the market sets the rates.
Well, the market,
and you set the printer.
But the market's setting rates based off of your Fed funds rate, right? And the Fed funds rate, they raise it because they want people to lend out less money and wind up loans that they already have out and not lend new money. So they're not creating new dollars. They lower rates to incentivize the inception of new lending, which puts more dollars into. So the scenario we're saying they want QE, the way they do QE is the Fed.
Yeah, let's say there's QA in January.
So quantitative easing, what does the Fed do there?
In April.
What does the Fed do there? They basically buy treasuries from banks with dollars. So they take the treasuries off the the bank's balance sheets,
They
put it
print
onto their
dollars,
balance sheet, and give them
buy
dollars.
the treasuries back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if they're doing that, they want their liability on those assets to be lower, so they have to lower interest rates so that their interest payments don't balloon out of control.
Yeah, but ultimately the rate is what the market's willing to lend them money at.
Yeah, in a free market economy, but we don't live in one. It's all dictated on what the Fed does.
But we've never been in this environment where the reserve currency is also going through hyperinflation at the same time.
Oh, you said it. Use the H word.
Dorsey said it first.
You use the H word.
Okay, well, it should be interesting to see what happens. I don't pretend to know. I'm just staying humble and stacking sats.
Yeah, keep staying humble and stacking sats. Not only you, but everybody listening. And either way, something's going to break. Something's going to break in the credit markets. They can only keep rates. I mean, we've already seen tremors of that in Europe with the UK pension system and the Bank of England having to step in there and bail out their pensions because the gilts went whack. Obviously, the euro's fallen against the dollar significantly. Yeah, it's all. The Fed is the dog wagging the tail here. It's all fucked. It's all. I mean,
my dog's barking, so I'm muted.
Long-winded way of saying it's beyond fucked. Something's going to break in the credit markets. We've already seen tremors of it. They're going to have to reverse rates. I mean,
mandibles.
Powell's. I mean, his comments yesterday are basically like, we're trying to incite a recession so that it gets to the point where the economy needs more dollars, and so we have to lower rates, get more dollars in. Hopefully, inflation's lower at that point. But again, this is we should not have to like talk about monetary policy like this. This is why we Bitcoin. There's 21 million. We have a halving every 210,000 blocks. We have a difficulty adjustment every 2016 blocks. You know what's happening. You don't have to worry about Jerome Powell or Christine Lagarde or any other central bank chairwoman or chairman to dictate what the policy is. You just check your node, see what Bitcoin's doing, how many Bitcoins have been distributed, how many will be distributed, what the difficulty adjustment's going to look like, what the fee market's looking like, and you react to that. You don't have to react to what you think a Fed chairman is.
When's the next palindrome block?
As of right now, we're at block height 767, 572. The next one is in, so it would be 767, So it'll be 76767. So that's in less than it's in 185 blocks, 95 blocks, a couple days. Now I'm all out of whack. That could be completely wrong. No, I'm right. It should happen tomorrow or the day after. Yeah, that's all we have on the list. Great rip. What a rip. Vibes are high. Bit devs tonight. Let's get to Boostagrams. Anything you want to riff on?
I just wonder who the fuck these people are that are lending them, lending the U.S. government money at 5% or whatever it is.
It's just going to become a Japanification that's essentially what's going to happen. We've had China dumping treasuries. We've had Russia dumping treasuries. There have been rumors of Japan, which is the largest treasury holder in the world, dumping treasuries to defend the yen. So essentially what's going to happen is what happened in Japan's bond market with their Japanese government bonds. They own something like I think they own the whole market now. And so when there is no lender or no buyer of those government bonds, the Fed will simply buy them and put them on their balance sheet. What others call monetizing the debt. They'll just do that until people become privy to it and say, yeah. Japan's been able to do it for a while, though, so we'll see how long the Fed can do it. But I don't think they'll be able to do it as long as Japan has done it up to this point. Here are the top 4 boosts from Rabbit Hole Recap. Rip 230, building in the bear party rip last week live in Nashville at MVK. Matt's former co-host. 103,000 sats. LN and V for V is coming along. Kissy emoji. Shout out to you, MVK. It is coming along. I love this.
Cheers.
This is evidence of it coming along. At Eric99 perennial 50,000 sat boost. Stay humble. Stack sats. At Chad Farrow throwing us 25,000 sats with no message, and at Deus Denton 10,069 sats. Nice. Stay humble. Stack sats.
Great advice.
Only two at 50,000 and above this week, freaks.
Appreciate you, freaks. Thank you for supporting the show.
Thank you for supporting. You can support us in many ways.
We had a lot of shout outs this week, though.
We did.
More than usual recently.
You can support us with shout outs. You can support us with Boost or just streaming sats. If you don't want to send monetary value, one thing that goes a long way on the podcasting apps is if your app allows you to rate and review the show. That helps us get visibility on those apps. So wherever you're listening, if you do have the ability to give us a rating or a review, please do so. We'd like to get this information out to others, to as many people as possible, because it seems like many people in the world have been getting shitty information about Bitcoin and quote-unquote crypto for many years, and we'd like to think that we're providing signal to you freaks. And
join us next week while we try and figure out why people are lending money to the U.S. government.
It's because, I mean, it's all a con game. It's a con game.
I'd rather hold Bitcoin.
I do as well.
I
like to think I
share
like
with
to
your
think
friends
I
and family. It helps too.
I like to think I explained it. I mean, they lend money to the government, the U.S. government, particularly.
No, I mean I understand. I understand the current paradigm.
But yeah,
I just feel like it spirals out of control.
In this, yeah, it's potentially what's going to happen.
And then at that point, you can't cut rates. Like they just will not have the ability to cut rates. Like, am I thinking about that wrong?
Then they'll.
Like there's gonna hit a point
they
where
can't print money without lowering rates.
Wants to do.
I think you're thinking about it wrong because you think they can print money without lowering rates. They have to.
No, but if rates are going like spiraling out of control, like oh great, like they lowered it like 2% over what the existing market rate was, but the market rate's just going like fucking flying out of control, so it doesn't fucking matter.
No, it won't matter. Again, they're going to have to print. So what they're going to do is print so much money to pay back their liabilities. So again, you have two options. You overtly default.
It's a platinum coin. Just print the coin.
Mint the coin. Joe Weisenthal.
Mint the coin.
Mint the coin.
Yeah.
Just mint the coin. Just mint the $2 trillion coin.
Boom, done.
But two options here. Overt default.
Now what would happen to rates?
Overt default, where we say, hey, can't pay back our debt. Sorry, treasury holders. Not going to happen. You're going to have to write down those treasuries to zero, at which point that becomes somewhat of a geopolitically untenable situation, considering the amount of treasuries owned by foreign governments. The other way is lower rates, print a bunch of money, and basically debase the debt away by printing dollars.
But
to pay that back.
Yeah, but rates could still be going up in that situation. And you're just lowering it from market rates. Like rates could spiral out of control to the upside.
If they're raising rates, yeah.
No, even if they're.
Are we talking about Fed funds?
Rates.
Like I think we're conflating Fed funds rates with credit rates.
Just like rates. Market credit rates, and like T-bill rates, right? That's supposed to be like a market, right? Like treasuries and shit.
Yeah.
It's a market, right? It's like someone is lending the money to the U.S. government. It can spiral out of control to the upside, even if they're trying to cut rates. Like, isn't that what's going to happen?
Yeah, but that's when everything breaks. And then you have the default.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's the default scenario. Stack sats, freaks.
Okay, well, this was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be doing Thursday next week. I won't be traveling until
Thursday
Friday.
Next week, and then we'll see what happens the week after that. We might have a surprise for you freaks.
We might have a surprise.
Or we might not. You might just get rugged.
You got to tune in to find out. Subscribe.
Well, I love you, Marty. I love you, freaks. Thank you, Logan, once again for producing the show. Appreciate you all. Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love, freaks.